Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday and good evening. My name is Lexy Locklear. I use she, her pronouns, and I am the National Program Associate here at Advanced Native Political Leadership. I'm also a member of the Lumbee tribe and reside in North Carolina currently. I would be remiss if I didn't mention that over the past weekend, western parts of my state were hit and experienced devastating damage from Hurricane Helene. Our thoughts and hearts are with those in Western North Carolina and the surrounding areas right now as they recover. We stand in solidarity with our communities as they navigate these challenging times. Um, Before I introduce our guests, I would love to share a little bit of background on our organization and our work here at Advance. We are the first and only national Native-led organization working to build a complete ecosystem approach to political power building in Native communities. And what that looks like is leadership recruitment and support, civic engagement, data and research, and national coordination. We know that we need equitable representation in elected offices, and increasing Native representation in office is critical to securing a reflective democracy for all Americans, one in which this country benefits from leadership and talents of Native peoples and is responsive to the assets and issues of Native citizens. At Advance, we're working hard to create opportunities for development, connection, and increased visibility for Native leaders to change the story. This is why we are so excited to host the Powering the Native Vote series, where we will have an opportunity to talk with Native leaders about their journey and work in elections and voting mobilization. This conversation will focus on the importance of voter engagement and getting out the vote during this upcoming election season. Our featured guest, Jaynie Parrish, is the Executive Director of Arizona Native Vote and will dive into the significance of mobilizing Native communities and the crucial role they play in shaping election outcomes. Jaynie leads Arizona Native Vote, a nonprofit organization dedicated to building political power in rural and tribal communities. I will let her introduce herself a little bit more into this next question that I'm going to ask. Jaynie, I'm excited to talk to you more about your role as executive director. But before we dive into that, I would love to know a little bit more about when you first decided that you wanted to get involved in civic engagement work. Was there something in your life that propelled you towards this journey?
Yes. And thank you, Lexi, for hosting. You're doing a great job, and I'm really proud of the whole team there. So yeah, it's Jaynie Parrish and Chia, the Bethlehem the Shle, a Sheen, but she's Chin, na kaidna and the Che do, Torich additional. So my Navajo relatives, I said my 4 clans, and I'm originally from 2 communities, Kayenta, Arizona on my father's side on Navajo, and Winter Rock, Arizona on my mother's side. And so that's where I grew up. But a lot of the I guess getting into some of that questions is really, I'm the youngest of 3, and I in a lot of ways, me and my sisters, we have a big age difference. So I was the baby that came later in life. But that sometimes I felt like, I was the only child because my sisters were a lot closer in age and older than me. But that also lent itself for me to have a lot of time with my friends, my peers of my age. And I think that also lent itself to have me explore a lot more and in opportunities. So I think a specific moment even today that I was talking about, I was a transition kid from the res to the urban area when I was in high school. And I was a part of this really incredible high school program, a tour guide program at the Heard Museum in Phoenix, Arizona. I don't think they have it anymore, but they trained local high school kids to give tours of the museum. It was a paid gig. You got like 70 plus hours of training. And for young 15, 16, 17, 18-year-olds, it was the first time we had to really be put out there in public to speak and to talk about all of the tribes in Arizona, that, not just your own. But I remember giving a tour, and we had visitors from all over the world. This wasn't that long ago, but I remember a visitor at the end of my tour saying, "Wow, this is just amazing. And we thought the United States government killed you guys all." And at 16, I was like, I didn't know what to say. And I had given, the group a good 30 to 40-minute tour. But that it took me a while to think about what that meant. And of course, from then till now, it speaks to that invisibility factor a lot, and what people don't know about us. This was a person that was traveling with people in the United States and people from outside of the United States. So I couldn't say anything else except, well, that's not true because you just had a tour from me and we went through this wonderful museum. So, you can change your mindset about that. I think that's something I said. But to this day in the work, that still resonates because people don't know much about us. And what they do know is a lot of inaccuracy. And so I think for me, it wasn't just civics and voting, it was making our voices heard everywhere we went. Because unfortunately, sometimes we become, or fortunately, we become the representatives of not only our families, our nations, but we also kind of have to figure out, do we want to say something when we clearly hear something wrong, or do we hold back and just let people talk or let them assume their own things? And I was one where I didn't want the people to have wrong information about us. And so I think that helped me finding my voice and figuring out a way to speak up. But then later, I specifically got into voting and elections and civic engagement. We can go into that a little bit more, but I always remember that.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that story. I know it resonates probably with a lot of our audience. Um, and like you said, we'll get into a little bit more of your civic engagement and how you got involved in voting. Can you tell us a little bit more about your role as executive director at Arizona Native Vote and your journey on how you became in this role?
Absolutely. It's an amazing journey and I'm still going through it, but we have a whole team now of amazing people. So I'm the director, founder of Arizona Native Vote. And since 2011, I've been on a lot of great campaigns and some not so great, meaning congressional campaigns, local races, my first presidential campaign, a lot of different campaigns outside of Arizona. I was picking up experiences, I was learning, I was figuring this out, what I like, what I don't like, meeting a lot of good people along the way. And I started noticing, again, I was the only Native person on in these campaign groups, and they would ignore our communities or didn't know about our communities. And I would ask, well, what is the campaign doing with the tribes, even urban or rural? Nobody had any answers. And these were, it was just different things were happening, but I was noticing it. And so one particular instance, I was in Nevada and I was having a hard time on a campaign. And I really wanted to work with tribes, even though I wasn't from there. I had friends that were from different tribes in Nevada. And I'm like, who's talking to them? And basically, from my director, they had no answer. They weren't from the West, they weren't from Nevada. But basically, in a nice way, basically it's because our populations, he didn't understand our numbers, and that basically in a way he said we didn't really matter because we didn't have the populations. That's not our concentration area, that's not our target area, that's not who votes kind of attitude. And I didn't accept that. I didn't know how to formulate my argument at the time. Now that we have so much data, so many more people talking about it, I just knew that wasn't right because our communities vote and our communities are really involved. And so that added to my experience in thinking, we need more of us to be these campaign directors, to be these state and national directors, and we need to be writing our own game plans when it comes to state. We can do that. And so I started on the path of picking up things like that. How does Vanna not work? How do I even operate that? What is a campaign plan? How do you look at the data to match up what your target is? All of these nuanced things that go a little bit deeper in how you try to reach voters. And so I think that was a really good experience for me. So that length of time from 2011 to now lends itself to where we are. I was called home to finally organize in Arizona in 2020. Not that I needed the call, it just was a nice boost when you get a call from your elders and your mentors and they say, we need you at home. We need you at home to organize. We know you're doing wonderful work out there in the world, in different states around the country, but we need your help. And that's all it took. I just knew I was going to come home to Arizona. I just didn't know when, but pandemic was happening at the time. It was a big election and I left my job in DC, my little apartment, and I came back home to Arizona and I started in our counties, Navajo County, Coconino County, Apache counties. And we started there. Everything that we've built today with Arizona Native Vote comes from that 2019, 20 to 23 experience. Everything, the strategy, the tactics, what we know works, what we know doesn't, what are the shortfalls, what do we need to do better, getting better at our playbook every year. That came from that experience, not just from me, but from the people that we have with us that formulated it. So accumulate all those years of experience, and all of us experience things differently. But one thing that we all agreed on was we didn't want to be on crappy campaigns. We didn't want to be on crappy campaigns, and we wanted to do the things that centered our communities, our voices, our people, run the campaigns and the strategy the way that we knew could work. And I think it definitely showed. One of the biggest results I love about our team was we hire local. We funneled every penny we had to train, support our own people to be the organizers, to be the spokespeople, to be out there connecting with voters on a regular. And it wasn't just like now, a month from a campaign. It was every month of a year. It was every year round. And we were in the schools, we're in the hospitals when we can be, but schools is a big part, and I'll talk about that. But it's focusing on us, and I'll get into some of those details of what else that looks like. But that foundation, it comes from us, and that's what I loved about the team. And they said one thing is we're not going to be on a crappy, we're not going to re-simulate being on a crappy campaign. We're going to be a humane campaign. We all agreed we want to be family oriented because that's the way our communities are. We can't do this work without our clanships, our relatives, our friends. Those were some pillars for us going forward.
Thank you. You really made it your own, it seems, throughout the whole process, and that is awesome to hear. What are some of the unique challenges that you think yourself and other Indigenous communities face in voter engagement and mobilizing folks? And how does Arizona Native Vote address them?
Sure. So again, some of those experiences really spoke to how we were going to target our strategies. One, we know how much harder it is in rural and tribal areas because of sheer geography, because of lack of physical addressing across the board, lack of drop boxes, lack of news and communication. There's so many, Native American Rights Fund put out a book analysis, like 100 and whatever ways it is to how much harder it is to vote and be civically engaged in our areas. And so we know that. So what we set out to do is be the people, the humans, to help our communities overcome those 100 plus different barriers. So we know that physical addressing is one challenge. So what do we do with this? We take our advice directly from the counties, the states, the trusted sources, and what they need to make sure our voters are counted, whether that's a GIS code, a Google Plus code. We really try to communicate that with voters because we're so used to PO box. For the longest time, when we say what's your address, it's a PO box. It's not a physical address. Even to this day, my driver's license still has a PO box. I does not have a physical. But I don't vote in person. I vote by mail. And when you vote by mail or Dropbox, you don't need to show ID. So if and when I vote in person, then I have to get an updated driver's license or ID. But things like that. We really take our time. Right now we have two incredible young organizers, Tristan Black and Layla Winberry, who are in 7 high schools this semester alone. And they're targeting, of course, seniors, mostly those that are going to be 18 before November, but it's everybody. Sometimes we get everybody in the grade, and they have to go through a series of motivation, a little bit, inspiration, make a connection first. Why does our vote matter? And then they actually have to go through the physical time to register. And that can take 2 to 3 times more or increased time than it would say somebody in Phoenix or Flagstaff who has a physical address. They really have to take the time to explain what each of those boxes are. What do they mean? And our kids, since they're new to this, they may not know their social security. They may not know their census number. They may not have a ID, or they may not know their physical address or the difference between physical and mail. So they really take the time to educate them about all of that. And while sprinkling in great detail of inspiration and motivation, because not only do we just want them to vote, we want them to be connected to why that vote matters. And so I think that's one great example. There are many ways. We inform people about where their drop boxes are. We have to inform people the differences between the counties, because Apache, you have to vote, for example, at your precinct. New voters may not understand that. In Navajo County, you can vote anywhere in the county. And they're like, why is that? Why can't we do that? It's like, this is part of the problem and can be confusing for new voters. Coconino
Yeah.
is a hybrid. So these nuances, you really need to have time to work through them. And I love that about our team. They take their time. We have a team that's ages 19 to 76. So our fire keepers, our matriarchs, our culture keepers, people that have been doing this for generations before us, they're working with us, advising us, and they're in the classrooms. So it's incredible intertribal and intergenerational teamwork, and not just on Navajo, but it's White Mountain Apache and Hopi. And now I'm happy to announce that we figured out a way to partner with our sisters down in Thanatham, who are already incredible organizers in their own right, but we're just finding ways now to better support each other in this work. So those are some things.
Yeah, increasing community. I love that. You spoke a little bit about teaching young people about why their vote matters. Um, I know that this year, 2024, marked the 100th anniversary of the passage of the Snyder Act. Can you
Mhm.
speak a little bit about how that legislation and other legislation like the Voting Rights Act of 1965 shaped the work that you do today, and influence like probably how you tell people why their vote matters?
Oh boy. Yeah, that's a loaded question. Sometimes it
Yeah,
gets easy, but then because we have such a wide variety of people and diversity in our communities, and I like to segment it up by people who are already really good voters, and normally they're above the age of 50. And it's cool, right? Because the moment they get their ballot, they're voting right away. Like, they're checking their mailbox, they're being diligent about filling out the ballot, they're talking about it, and they mail it back right away, or they vote early in person. We want our younger voters to be that good. And that's why there's such a good voting block. But that doesn't mean that it's not truly representative. If young people stepped up in those kind of really diligent, they would own the whole scene. They would own every seat and policy. And it's incredible the power that young people can have. And so there's that voter. We don't always focus a lot there. We maybe check in from time to time, but we know they're solid. We know they're regular voters. There's a middle ground where who we call high potential voters. We identify them in the data where maybe they only voted once, maybe they only voted twice. Right now, we're trying to think of messaging that will do just this. So you bring up a great question. We were looking at our text for our postcards. Not only is the in-person helpful, of course, but for the people that we can't reach in person, we're banging our heads all the time thinking, what is going to be the perfect message for voters that didn't vote in 2020? What is going to help motivate them to come out this year? And then we have our other segment of voters who are brand new. They're brand new, 18, 19, possibly, or just brand new older voters. A little bit more motivated, a little bit more, they've stepped up, they've registered, they feel like it's important to them right now. So that we'll see how the behavior goes on their voting habit, but it's this middle ground that hasn't voted or have some apathy. And that's the hard part. And I think that's where humans and storytelling and young voters share their stories that can help motivate others with family and friends. What we found in a lot of our instances with Layla and Tristan, for example, they're so good as well. They talk about an issue. Instead of all the things in the world that are going wrong, which we know, all the history and the trauma and the things that we've experienced as Native people, that's a lot. That's a lot. And, all of our young people are going to go through that and they're going to learn it. They're going to learn our history. They're going to learn about the injustices. Hopefully maybe they're already learning it now. But I remember as a young person, I had to sit in those classes and at home and cry and get mad and read the books and watch the videos. And I had great professors that were Native and took us through that. And it transforms you when you learn the details, when you learn the atrocities, and you have to feel it and you have to go through it. And then you have to guide that energy somewhere. We've been through all of this. So now where is my place to step up? Where am I going to be of use to help correct or help my family in overcoming these things? Where am I going to be? What am I going to do? And people find their path in a variety of ways. Maybe they're going to go be that environmental lawyer and go fight for our voting rights. Maybe they're going to go run for office. Maybe they're going to be a doctor. But all of us have a place and a role. And that's the way that we think about it. So we have new voters, those voters that may not think their vote counts. We have to show them. We have to bring them in. We have to show that we care and it's not just a transaction. We have to connect with them on what they do care about. Maybe ask why they don't think their vote counts and go through the steps. And so that takes time and that takes human connection. And I think that's really powerful when we have people on our team that are able to do that. And we've had people convert and say, yeah, okay, I'll vote, and they'll register, check their registration or their pledge. Well, of course, we won't really know until we look at the data after they vote, but there's a conversation. And we might get to an issue that they really care about, like healthcare. I recently talked with a young mom about 3 weeks ago. This is going to be her first time voting. And she said, it took me and my kid to have to go through the healthcare service and what we weren't being covered and the insurance nightmare and other things to make me think, why is it like this? Why can't we have more funding for this procedure? Why do I have to go here and here and here? And they say the money ran out. And so it took that for her to personally see how it affects her kid and say, I don't want that to happen. And who can I talk to about this? Who can I complain? We're like, perfect. That's exactly what government is for, is these services. And that's why your vote matters. If you're wondering why we don't have enough funding for SNAP, for WIC, for healthcare services, it's tied back. Our daily things are tied back to those policies and the people that are making those decisions. And she may not know, she didn't know who those people were. She didn't know those offices. She just knew it wasn't working. So when I had a quick conversation with her, but then Lucy was there. Lucy was the grandma. And she worked with people in the community to help get WIC and SNAP benefits. And she would talk, and she talked to her in that grandma way. And she was like, okay, I'm ready. I'm gonna vote because this healthcare is not right. And I love that transpired within like 30 minutes. We were still in touch with her. She wants to help register some of her other family members, but sometimes you need that type of issue to orient yourself. And that's what we need to do more of, is what is it our people care about, and let them see how their vote really matters. Yeah. Oh, sorry, we lost your voice, or I did.
Sorry. Okay, I'm back. You've already touched on this a little bit with your strategies that Tristan is doing and Layla are doing in the high schools, but what other strategies have you found to be more effective or most effective in reaching, engaging Native voters who are, especially in those rural areas or hard to reach areas?
Sure. Well, okay, there's a couple cool things that have been happening. And one thing that organizing is we have to make it our own. We are the experts in our own communities. What gets you to get out of the house and go to an event? Or what gets you to go to, maybe athletics, maybe food, a dance, something's happening. And that's what our folks are tapping into, because we are in rural areas. It's impossible to go door to door per se. Although there is some home visits that our team will make and follow up when we know who the voter is and where they are. We don't always have physical addressing, but maybe we'll share drop locations or pins. But that door-to-door nuance, like we do in cities and towns, isn't always going to work for us. So we have to be really specific on home visits, and our matriarchs identify certain people in the community that they know that may not have regular transportation or are homebound or elder, and they go and check on them. There are local people that either do check-ins, but sometimes they just do it themselves. And they're able to check the mail for them. They're able to see if they got some water, some food. Maybe they'll bring a little bit of food. They'll notify the chapter house if something is in need. And Maria was really great at doing that one time. There was bad roads, bad weather earlier this spring, and because she knew where this family was, she was able to notify the chapter house and put them on a priority list for not only checking but getting the roads straightened out, because they were so, they were bad roads. And so that was being an advocate like that in the community, and the know who needs that assistance is really great. The other thing besides home visits or check-ins is they get to have fun with the targeted folks that we've been in touch with. So like right now, we've been in touch with all of these credible people through events, their contact information, their voter, but we just don't leave them. We just don't do one event and then leave them alone, or we just don't do one high school visit and leave them alone. This is the hard part. This is the work we have to constantly do some follow-ups. And that means now they take all that data and then they say, we're going to have a goat roping event next week. We have to get in touch with all those people that we've been in touch with the last few weeks, and we got to invite them, and we got to talk to them again and have fun and do goat roping, do prizes, do food. And so that's what I love about our team, is that they're doing that in their own way, in their own community. In White River, they just launched their beadwork competition, and everybody's interested in that. They get prizes, and they get there's themes around voting and empowerment. So let's keep an eye out for their awesome beadwork coming out of White Mountain and San Carlos. But you make it your own. And whether that's goat roping, cakewalk, beadwork competitions, or like Allie and Protect the Sacred, riding horses, or skateboarding, I mean, I think you figure out a way where you can talk to your people, and not just one time. You want to be there for them, and even outside of the election. So we're going to be doing this even after the elections. So we'll get in touch with all of our people again that we've been in touch with and say, hey, how are you doing? How do you feel about the election? Do you know about the election results? Maybe we'll do some illustration and diagramming, but this work doesn't stop. And so I think that those are some key things. Make it your own. You know best what would bring people out, and then continue to follow up. Just don't leave it one time and then go away. Be there for your community. So.
Now, you mentioned a lot of activities. Do you have a lot of volunteers who help you out, or is it mostly your staff that's helping out at this event? Who
Well,
is involved in the community that
who
is
is
helping you?
involved? Yes. So again, I mentioned we have a staff. We started out with two, and now we have close to 20 people. We're not going to have all 20 people all year because elections require more hands-on, so we need more assistance and more help in the field. But there's going to be a core that's going to stay with us, and that's going to look like anywhere between 10 to 15, probably 15. And what that looks like is they're all paid. Our employees, they're all paid a really good wage. We had an argument with some folks to say, well, they only need to be paid this and that. We're like, there shouldn't be a distinction between urban city living pay and the res pay, because so instead of paying 18, 17 an hour, we upped ours to 28 to start with, 27, 28.
Awesome.
And yeah, so paying our people a living wage, that includes benefits. It also includes, so we get good people that want to stick around and we're not having to replace bunch of new people all the time. We have part-time folks. We have fellowships. We're just launching high school fellows and college fellows that are going to be helping us do this work, and we are paying them. We have a few volunteers. It may not be a surprise that most of our volunteers are non-native. They are great because they're like, we're retired. We don't need to be paid. We're well, we're well taken care of. Because we made the case where we want to pay our people to do this work. We're already in kind of economically depressed areas in some places where unemployment is already high. So we take pride in spurring some economic activity and paying our people to do this work. It's hard work. And we also want to make sure they have that living wage. Our volunteers come at a very strategic point in our cycles where, for example, they may help us write postcards or make some texting or phone banks remotely. They're not always going to be in our area for bigger, larger things on the outside, but we do have volunteers from home, not a lot, but we do have some within our own community who just want to give back. And that could be helping out our high school guide program, setting it up, taking it down. We always need volunteers, especially if we have big events. I mean, those canopies aren't light, those tables aren't light, and our grandmas can't, be setting up canopies and tables and everything. So we have young folks, or we have people we pay to do that, and they can shine. They can do their work, but they don't have to worry about setup, cleanup, or takedown. And there's other volunteers who are stepping up right now who are asking about, I have a van. How do we coordinate people picking up and dropping off for early vote? Or maybe they're a runner for us. That's really important for us, as wide of a geography as we are across 3 tribal communities. Sometimes we need runners, people who are willing to drive an hour, 2 hours to drop things off with White Mountain or Hopi or get things up in Navajo. So we have volunteers who are willing to drive. We have volunteers who are helping to clean at the ceremonies. So like Lucy and Maria, they go big ceremonies or big events, but they literally need people to wash dishes and clean up and do all that stuff. So those are some ways where volunteers can step up. But for some of the real core things, we keep that for our employees, and it's good work. And we get to pay local Native artists, we get to pay local Native food vendors, and make it all supporting a Native economy with the funds that we're getting for grants and things like that. We dish it back out to the community that way. So we have a good combo. And then of course, donations. That's another great way where folks contribute a lot of their effort too.
For folks who wouldn't really have, I guess, the time or bandwidth to volunteer full time, how would you support or how would you suggest that they support voter engagement efforts?
Thank you. Yes, one thing I just thought of was helping share our stories. I know we're trying to do more. We're very focused on the field. So one day, I hope, like we have in advance, I hope we have a full-time like comms person, a full-time digital person. We don't got that yet.
Yeah.
We're all focused in the field with organizing and fire keepers and that strategy. But eventually I do want a full-time storytellers because that helps share the work from the field. And so I think that's what volunteers and people from the outside can do is get to know. We're trying to do better on our Instagram and social about the work from our young organizers from Hopi, from White Mountain, and you can share that. Another thing that you can do, I think, to support in this work, either specifically with us or just in general Native vote, is think about now, since our life right now is around the calendar of when ballots drop. So right now, our whole focus is to get people registered and to check their status between now and the voter registration deadline, which is next week in Arizona.
Mm.
After that, our team is mobilizing, no more big events per se, but it's getting people to vote. And that's what everyone can do in their home state is encourage your family and your friends first to vote early. And we're all hearing make a plan. That's so crucial. I think those collective efforts help us all in Indian country, but especially for those in Arizona, we got to be mindful of our set dates of October 7th is the deadline. October 9th is when ballots drop. And then of course we have the big day. But there's so many things that where people are needed all the time. Don't think you're not needed. We need you at polling places. We need you to help make calls, write postcards, remind your family, do ads. I saw Unity, they're paying high school kids and college kids right now $750 to do public service announcement ads to help get out the vote with their peers. Everybody doing their part, whether with us or wherever you're at, I think really makes a difference. And it's like a basketball team. When everyone's doing their part, we win.
Yeah, true. Please,
Yeah,
please, please check your voter registration deadline. North Carolina folks, October 11th. Make sure you check it before then.
yeah.
Um, our last question, really, and some advice for our young Indigenous people who want to get involved in political organizing. Oh, sorry. What advice would you give them specifically for getting involved and for mobilizing?
Well, I would say if you were like me, I knew things were important. Like I got involved in campus and high school with the clubs, student clubs, Indian clubs, and things like that. I was on the powwow committee and all that. And it was great. And that was a great start. I would also encourage you to start thinking about like rallies and political, if they're not already, maybe just going to see what it's about. Volunteering right now on either a candidate campaign or just a general get out the vote campaign, I think are really great ways to not only meet people and have fun, but you kind of start getting an inkling of what all this stuff is about. And so I think that um, that was the best thing is in 2011, I was not, before 2011, I was not a voter, really. I was not involved and I was not a voter. I was in my mid-20s, mid to late 20s. And what got me involved was seeing Obama and Hillary, and they were running back then. And I was like, huh, I like this because to be honest, I saw the political world very white and old and male and just like not something I wanted to be like I was a part of. I just didn't see anything there for me and I just didn't make the connection. But it took a couple things for me to make my real personal connection and be like, no, I'm going to be in this. I'm going to register voters. I'm going to help. And and finally it took people from our communities. I saw Denise Juno. She was running for state office and I was so inspired when she spoke. And I was like, I got to do everything I can get this woman elected. I will do everything, whatever is needed. I will donate. I will knock doors. I will make phone calls, whatever it is we need to get her elected. And that was, a couple years ago. And I think that, that change, we're seeing more and more Native people running for office. And we may be inspired, we may be motivated, they may talk to us, or they may not. But it's a good thing to have more of us running for office. And then you're also so needed to help elect those people to office. So all of that work that goes into campaign and strategy is what we need more of us to do. So the more you learn how to figure out, how do I get voters to vote? Or what is the van? Or what is the campaign? What is the calendar? Once you start figuring those things out by being a part of it, you'll find something you'll like to do. And you're so needed. Everybody's the hands on deck all the time, but you know, I think there's a lot of room for young people to find a voice creatively too. Like the thing that got me excited one time was I love the storytellers on the campaign. They got to do cool photos, they were doing cool art, they were doing all the cool fun stuff. And I needed a break from the other stuff to get reoriented with my creative side. And I was like, I love the stories from the field. I love the voter stories from the grandmas and the young people. And I'm happy to record that, or I'm happy to figure out a way to use that to document, really. It was to document our own stories from our community. So I think that please get involved in any way you can. Get involved with us if you want to volunteer, Advanced Native. I think those are some great ways. And we'll help you get started, especially if you want to come to Navajo, Hopi, White Mountain. Eventually we'll move into Maricopa County because Phoenix Indian Center is a good friend of ours and they want to do more in Maricopa County. And so let us know. Let us know.
I have a couple lightning round questions.
Sure.
Some fun questions. What is the last book that you read, and how would you rate it?
Honestly, it was Allie gave me a copy of their campaign book. It was just 2 days ago and I loved it. They're putting together, it's like a 60-page book, but it's really helpful. It actually explains a lot of things. So my mind right now is very captivated around campaign. But outside of that, I will count podcasts and books. So one of my favorites, but I'm always on the road. I love Trevor Noah. So I'm always up to date on Trevor Noah. And okay, this is back to campaign world, but I love Rachel Maddow. I love
You
her
can't help what you're
ultra.
passionate about.
I know. I love Ultra. I cannot stop telling everybody to listen to Ultra and Deja Vu or Deja News, because it when I'm driving these long drives, it helps you see that the time we're in and all the chaos and the racism and discrimination and the crazy, of course it's not new. It's not new. But once you have context of the history, it it helps to have the details, and I think they do a great job of storytelling. So I would encourage you all to check out that podcast if you're driving around or flying. But fun stuff when I don't want to think or I just want to have fun. Murders only in the building, 30 Rock, Parks and Rec. Those are some things I like to do.
I love 30 Rock and Parks and Rec. Some of
Yes.
my favorite shows. Okay, last question. October has rolled in finally. What is your favorite fall activity?
Oh boy. I get to bust out jackets. No, just kidding.
Oh, yes.
The walks, and I think honestly, right now I'm just so election mode, but that's what I think about fall right now. But outside of election mode, it's the outdoor activities for me. Whenever the walks, just being outside and you're not frying and it's not hot and you get to see the change in the leaves, and it's a change of our not only our weather, but just like us too, we're going into a new season. And that's what I love about fall.
Does it get any cooler in Arizona in the fall? I'm visited
Well,
in the
in
summer every
Phoenix,
time I go.
Phoenix is horribly hot and climate change, yes. So, um, But I have to remind people that aren't from Arizona, all of Arizona is not like Phoenix. So where we're at on Navajo and Hopi, Wyoming, it's already cold. It's beautiful. It's cooler in the morning and at night, and we're wearing jackets and sweatshirts already. It's the mountains. So
Oh,
once you start driving like just an hour, 2 hours north of Phoenix, you're already in cold country.
yeah,
So we get all the seasons where we are, and it's nice. But yeah, down in the valley, Artan Autumn and Autumn brothers and sisters, it's the
yeah,
Sonoran Desert, and but it's going to be ideal for them, and everybody in the world is going to be wanting to be down there because it'll start being beautiful, like 60, 70 degrees, like probably in a month, and it'll be like
yeah.
that all the way through February. So that's the best time to come to Southern Arizona.
Okay. Well, thank you, Jaynie, for this conversation and for joining us. We really appreciate all the insights that you've given us. Um, yeah, any last parting words? Any other things you want to leave the audience with before we end?
Just thank you for this space. I would have never thought to be doing all this stuff when I was 18, 19, even parts of my college. But I'm just so happy that this is happening and there's movements being built and everyone's contributing where they can. So whoever's going to be watching this, that you have a place with us, you have a place in this work, and you're so needed. So organize at home or wherever you can. And then of course, follow Arizona Native Vote. We don't have a full-time digital. We'll get there one day. But we have our Instagram we're trying to grow, and the young ones are on TikTok. I'm not on there, but there's TikTok happening, I know, and Facebook, and those are the channels that we're on. So that's it.
Thank you.